Well, this is probably not the best Mishima book to start with, but I finally popped my cherry and read a Yukio Mishima book. And I've been procrastinating for a while because my thoughts are all over the place, and I've even watched a couple of videos regarding his philosophy, Sun and Steel. But here we are. Now, of course, I agree with a lot that is being discussed here. And, he makes a valid point where he says that, words are corrosive. In a way, words are impotent. The imagination is, in a way, limited. And the only thing that's real or realer or tangible is, of course, the physical, the body. The only way that you can actually know and demonstrate that you are alive is by experiencing pain and suffering. But of course, to me, this philosophy is on the extreme. To me, he was a bit extreme, and it is so obvious why he took this route to such a extreme, of course, and it is, of course, and it is why somebody like Friedrich Nietzsche also went into an extreme where he wrote about the Übermensch. And this is it. When Yukio Mishima was little, he was sickly. He was frail. He was just, he had no strength or health whatsoever. And at one point, he almost died, and his family were already preparing for the funeral, but he somehow revived. So when he was young, he was basically bedridden, and all he had were books and words and the imagination. And for a while, of course, this world of words helped him, elevated him. Words and books, they sort of saved him, and words uplifted him from his situation. And because of this is just my opinion, but because of this, Yukio Mishima, when he grew up, he went into the extreme where he had to compensate. And he went on this sort of crusade where he just had to become, the absolute, samurai, the absolute unit. And he had to embody this extremely straightforward philosophy. Okay. And you can see the same thing when it comes to Friedrich Nietzsche. For the most part of his life, he was also sickly, bedridden. He had extreme stomach problems. He couldn't eat anything other than, fruit. He had, tonics and pharmaceutical brews with him everywhere. He couldn't really do anything. He couldn't go anywhere. And he was still plagued by extreme pain and suffering. And therefore, Nietzsche had to write about the Übermensch, the Superman. He had to compensate for his weakness. He had to project the image that he wanted to be. And it's normal. Of course, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but you can clearly see the patterns. It is absolutely human to do this. And of course, with everything, there are positives. There are the good aspects of any philosophy. And the only thing that an intelligent person can do is just pick the good aspects of anything and leave the rest. Because, of course, even when it comes to Nietzsche and Yukio Mishima, we have aspects that are a bit too much, that are a bit cringe, and they should be left aside. We should only pick and adore and use only the tools that are useful to us. And I really wanted to talk about this because, of course, this book, Sun and Steel, if you've noticed, for the last couple of years, has become really, really popular again for a certain category of people, which is what might be called, I don't know, gym bros or people who work out, especially men who work out, and that's fine. But you can clearly see that they are in a sort of frenzy when it comes to this book, and they are in a sort of frenzy when it comes to this philosophy of working out and the body, etc., etc. And it is the same kind of extremism that plagued Mishima and Nietzsche and a whole lot of other people, which is this, that, of course, it is absolutely wonderful to work out, to feel your body active, to radiate strength and power through your muscles. You feel alive, of course. You can have a real connection with your body, and therefore you might feel a bit more alive. Whereas with things like writing and words and reading, there is a limit. There is a sort of peak that you cannot go beyond when it comes to the imagination and with fantasies. Therefore, the physical exercises are a bit more potent because they actually have almost instantaneous results. But here is the thing that I've noticed. Hopefully nobody will be offended, but this is what I've noticed, that this is being taken too seriously, in the sense that, for example, Yukio Mishima, this extremism in the sense that, if it is cold outside, freezing cold, and nobody else will go outside because it's so cold and they are afraid of being of not being comfortable, and a lot of people are weak, Yukio Mishima is going to take his shirt off. He's going to be bare-chested. He's going to put a bandana with the Japanese sun on it, and he's going to run in the freezing cold with his shirt off because, he's tough. And to me, this is absolutely all right, but it is a sign of absolute extremism. To me, people like this are LARPing, they're cosplaying, they're role-playing. It's a bit too much for no reason. This is exactly, okay, and hopefully we can be rational and objective and mature. I'm not attacking Yukio Mishima, absolutely not, but this is what I've noticed. This is what has been plaguing things like the fitness industry for a long time, influencers, fitness influencers, and even the manosphere, MGTOW, and everything else for a long time. This sort of irrational extremism where you've seen, these things like morning routines where people brag about, they go to sleep at 10 p.m. and they wake up at 2 a.m. and they are on that grind set, and, they work out constantly and they make a lot of money and they flex their muscles and their wealth. And, this guy who has this morning routine of he puts his face in freezing water and he squeezes some lemons and he's just like, this is a bit of showmanship. This is a performance. You've heard this term recently. It's called performative masculinity, whatever, in which people have to compensate for something that is missing by telling other people and showing other people just how, amazing they are, and just how tough they are, and just how, they're built different. They have to tell everybody. Okay, this is the same symptom, toxic symptom that has been plaguing uh, a certain sector of society for a long time. And to me, of course, I'm not accusing Mishima of anything, but to me, this is the same case with Yukio Mishima, that he was plagued by the same toxic symptom that it is prevalent today. Nothing has changed. People start working out and looking good and feeling good, and something happens, something clicks in their brain, and they just have to just turn this wonderful, healthy thing into some sort of cult, into some sort of religion, into some sort of militaristic, I don't know, commune, something. I don't know what's going on. Why can't people just work out and feel good and be healthy and let it be natural, and stop turning everything into some sort of, crusade or inquisition or, a cult? Because this is what it is. Everything is fine until you go to this extreme of being a zealot, an extremist, a fanatic, and nothing has changed, in my view, from Yukio Mishima to today. The same thing, the same symptom that is toxic is plaguing a certain sector of society. Okay, and even before Mishima, this was the case with Nietzsche, and before Nietzsche, etc., etc. Okay, he talks a lot about pain and suffering, which is of course valid. The only way that you can prove that you are alive is by experiencing pain through the body, mostly through the body. Like I always said, a lesson learned without suffering is meaningless. In a way, the lesson has to be beaten into you. The pain itself, the knowledge, the wisdom has to be stabbed into you. You have to suffer in order to learn and mature and grow up, etc., etc. This is, of course, true. But yet again, he takes it to an extreme that to me is a bit cringe, where somewhere in this book he says that, he was in the military and it was a terrible cold morning and it was just so cold, and maybe it was a bit raining and it was windy, and somebody, an officer or whatever, came and got him because they had to do some military exercises, some shooting, and he was just so thrilled to be in this terrible weather and discomfort, and yeah, I like that. To me, this is a bit of a sadomasochistic thing. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whatever, but I can see behavior. I know human nature, and this is a bit of something that it is so in your face. This type of mentality, like, yeah, I can't wait to be in pain, and you see, I'm tough, I'm not like you, I'm built different, I got that dog in me. When it's freezing cold outside, I take off my clothes and I fucking work out. It's fine, it's great, but it's a bit too cringe. It is performative. I don't know why stuff like this is taken to such serious extremes. Why can't it be left to just, it is a healthy thing? Because let me tell you, of course, if it is extremely cold outside, I am not going to take off my shirt and start jogging with a bandana on my head. And, and people will say, yeah, because I'm weak and because I'm not tough and, I have a weak mind, whatever. Maybe that is absolutely valid. Of course, I am not placing myself on the same pedestal as Yukio Mishima, of course. These are just some opinions, just some musings on this book, and this thing that he had about duty and fulfilling your duty, and you have to have this purpose, and that is fine, but he is so gaga, so intoxicated by this uh this cliche of fulfilling your duty. Even in this book he says that uh he really wanted to be a kamikaze and die for nothing, because that was the amazing thing that he wanted to do. He thought it was an amazing thing, and he was just so depressed and disappointed that he couldn't die for nothing. Of course, this has a lot to do with the Japanese, I don't know, ethos. Uh, to me, the Japanese have been brainwashed for centuries, if not millennia, with this nonsense of just fulfilling your duty, even if your duty is dying for nothing. I'm Eastern European, so this doesn't really vibe with me. Um, and he was extremely downcast because because he was misdiagnosed, he couldn't go and die in World War II for nothing. So uh, he survived because of dumb luck, I guess, and he was extremely sad about it, because the people that he was supposed to go, I don't know, on missions or whatever, they all died, and he wanted to die too. And I'm just like, whatever. And he was just extremely in awe of these young kamikazes who just sacrificed themselves allegedly for a greater goal, for the greater good. And he went to a museum where these these kamikaze letters were preserved, and he was just so it was almost a religious experience. And I'm just like, I hopefully nobody will be offended, especially Japanese people, but the kamikazes died for nothing. Okay? They died for nothing. And there is no way that you can explain or excuse this philosophy of oh boy, those courageous young men, how honorable they were, that they sacrificed themselves for nothing in particular. They just died for nothing. They threw away their life for nothing. And of course, their sacrifice didn't affect the war at all. It was simply nothing. Of course, they were absolutely courageous, but of course, there was also a whole lot of brainwashing and mind control. Okay, think about throughout the history of humanity, how many young, gullible men, 18, 19, 20, how many gullible young men throughout history have been bamboozled into believing that dying for nothing was extremely great, the best thing ever. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions of stupid, dumb young men died for nothing in wars from the beginning of time. Hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dummies. And they died thinking that this was the best thing ever, to die for nothing, to be cannon fodder. To be cannon fodder. This is inexcusable to me. Just like the brave men who died for nothing on D-Day. You're telling me there was absolutely no other solution than to send thousands of men to be gunned down on the beaches of Normandy. It was basically target practice. And people think that was the greatest thing ever. What bravery. Of course it was brave, but it was incredibly stupid because they died for nothing. But anyway, this, I don't know, almost mindless love for being cannon fodder is, Mishima writes about this in his a book where he just craves. He has this yearning to fulfill his duty. And he says somewhere that if his superior officers told him, go out there and die for nothing like Cannon Father and fulfill your duty, Mishima would have been so ready, so locked in to be Cannon Father. This is inexcusable. I don't understand this mentality. Of course, it has to do with Japanese culture. It has to do with brainwashing, propaganda, mind control. Uh, of course, the warrior mindset is amazing, of course, but to escalate it to this grandeur where you are absolutely ready to die for nothing, like Cannon Father, just to fulfill your duty. I don't know what that means. It's a bit silly. It's a bit cringe. Whatever. Each to his own, I guess. And of course, there is also this theme of just having a heroic death, an honorable death, a beautiful death. This was one of the main things that Mishima wanted. He was fascinated by it. He was even obsessed by it, which is fine, of course. I don't think that death is dignified in any way. I think upon death, old age, sickness, and death, they have no dignity. They don't preserve any of your dignity. It's ugly, it's nasty, it's stinky, and of course, from what I gather, Mishima, of course, like all of us, was afraid of getting old and ugly and wrinkly, and he couldn't handle that. It's fine, of course. Nobody wants to go through with that. Of course, if you investigate a bit, even his own death wasn't that pretty, because the person who chopped off his head in the traditional seppuku way, he was struggling, and then somebody else had to chip in and finish the job. So even his death wasn't beautiful at all. It was kind of, I don't know how painful it was, but and I don't want this to be interpreted as me demeaning or mocking Mishima at all. It isn't so, but I think his death was kind of pointless. The only thing is that hopefully he was happy when he died. Hopefully he found what was missing, what he was searching for. Hopefully he was free. Hopefully he just finally found peace and was, happy and tranquil with himself. Of course, because his little coup that he staged was kind of, nothing. It was a joke, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. He was a contradiction. He, it's his death, of course. Everybody has the right to do whatever he or she wants with their lives, but to me, his life was a bit of a, it was a shame. It was a shame in the sense that he could have lived on, and maybe he could have written more books, more masterpieces. The fact that he decided on this conclusion to his life, it's fine. It was his right, his choice. It's a bit sad to me. I don't know why. He went out as he wished, and that's fine. That's great, but I don't know. It makes me a bit sad that he had this on his mind for a lot of years. Because if you read him and if you watch, documentaries and what have you, his writing is all about death and how he and even in his youth he craved death, a heroic, beautiful death, and he just he had he was flirting with death his entire life, and he finally found it. But it's just we're all gonna die anyway. This is just my simple philosophy. We're all gonna die anyway. What is the point of just obsessing over this all of your life? I am more a fan of, the philosophy of somebody like Emil Cioran, who says, we do everything way too late. Everything that we do it too late. Even suicide, we do it too late. So it doesn't really matter. It's pointless. Uh, I actually relate to that a bit more than just this obsessive compulsive search for, I don't know, beauty and death, and just turning things into a fanatical cult of just, it's each to his own, I guess, right? Each to his own. We're not here to, um, criticize somebody else's thought process to the absolute extreme. I just don't understand it that correctly, that well, which is fine. Again, you can see the same toxic fanaticism in the fitness industry, and people who work out, and gym bros. They all have this insane, crazed demeanor about them, as if they discovered something absolutely new. Yeah, working out is great. It is great. You have incredible benefits, but to take it to this religious cult status, it's just it's a bit too much. It's a bit too much. It stops being something healthy and natural and wonderful, and it becomes a sort of it becomes LARPing. It becomes cosplay. It becomes role play. This is what is happening, and this is what has been happening for extremely long time. People stumble upon something that is absolutely beneficial to them. Whether it is working out or drugs or whatever. And instead of just enjoying these things in a tranquil way and just being balanced, they heighten it to this absolute cult status where, for example, this meme of lean is law and whatever. It's just whatever. Yeah, sure. Put on a bandana and cosplay, whatever. Do you, boo? But of course, the philosophical aspects are absolutely on point. And again, I have to repeat myself. I am not putting Yukio Mishima on the same level with these gym bros today who, if you really look at it, they have the aspect of just working out their muscles, which is great, but they don't really have a lot of stuff here. They're working their muscles, but they're not working this particular muscle. Whereas Yukio Mishima was a unit. He not only exercised his muscles on the body, but he also exercised his brain, basically. The fitness industry today, working out in general, isn't really a philosophical thing. It's just something that you do to compensate for whatever it is that you think you're lacking. It's so obvious. It takes about 20 seconds of research to see that the fitness industry today is just a whole lot of just performative. It's performative. There is no substance. Whereas Yukio Mishima was on a pedestal of his own. He was a different caliber of people. But unfortunately, in my opinion, he also suffered from this fanatical extremism where he embraced this, way of the samurai, the Bushido, and, let's just LARP about being a samurai. It's fine. It's fine. I don't want to linger on this too long. This book is a treasure trove. You can find a lot of good things that you can apply to your own life. But the only suggestion that I would give to anybody is take the good things that you can use to affect your life in a positive way and never ever take it to the absolute extreme, you know, because basically what usually happens when it comes to anything, be it a philosophy, a religion, a sort of activity like working out, whatever, it goes full retard. You know, pardon my language, but usually people go full retard when it concerns whatever. Even, you know, like anime and manga, people have elevated these pieces of entertainment to the absolute extreme where it is the only culture that they know, and they just worship anime and manga and merch. You know, take what is good for you and leave all of the negative things behind, and never ever go to the extremes of just turning anything or everything into this fanatical zealot crusade thing where you take something and you just think it is the most amazing thing possible. You know, this is how cults become a reality. And this is another thing where Mishima has this thing of hating individuality and individuals, because he discovered community with other people doing what I would call banal tasks, like I don't know, moving a shrine around. This is how he sort of related to other people when he began carrying shrines with other people. He sort of shared, I don't know, a sort of communed with other people, and in a way he says that the individual must be pushed aside, and everything has to be done with a community. You have to commune with other people, and just become a unit. And I disagree with this every step of the way. In my view, you always have to be an individual. You always have to be sovereign and autonomous, and you always have to reject the hoi polloi, the riffraff, because otherwise, when you embrace the group, the masses, the the vox populi, when you embrace just you, this is dangerous, because the hive mindset sets in. This is the insect mindset must be rejected every step of the way. So I do not agree with his thinking process of, everything has to do with the group. You always have to be an individual, in my view. The people, the masses, the groups, they have to be pushed aside. They have nothing really to offer, okay, in my view. But to end this video, I was thinking, because I have a sick mind, a perverted mind, Yukio Mishima was born, I think, in 1925. So if he somehow lived to this day, he would be kind of 100 years old. And this is what my sick mind came up with. If Yukio Mishima did not commit suicide, and if he was alive today, what would be his thoughts regarding society in general? Especially when it comes to Japanese society, because, in my view, the Japanese society, the Japanese people will not last this century, because, they're not having kids. The nativity is down at the bottom. They're going to be extinct. I wonder what he would think about this. But not only this, what would he think of the fact that Japan is all about merch and materialism? Wherever you go, especially in a city, there's nothing but merch everywhere, and toys and knickknacks and anime and manga and video games and this uwu weeb nerd mecca. This is especially what Tokyo is, right? So what would Yukio Mishima think about the state of Japan today, where pretty much it's all about anime and manga and merch and cosplaying and maid cafes, and body pillows with waifus and what would he think that a lot of young Japanese men choose to stay at home and become, neets or hikikomoris and collect figurines of female anime characters with detachable panties? What would he think about all of this? It's to me, it's just so intriguing because, of course, society is going downhill constantly. What would Yukio Mishima think about today's society, where everything is just so, superficial and shallow, and it's all about materialism? There is no substance. What would Yukio Mishima think? Especially, what would Yukio Mishima think about memes nowadays? Because, of course, the only culture that prevails today are memes, and memes around everything. What would Yukio Mishima think about this extreme lust and love for memes and everything that has to do with memes and this cheap entertainment that people love so much nowadays? But that's about it. Uh, These were just some of my thoughts, and I would suggest that everybody should read this book so that they may understand that taking something to the absolute extreme and turning it into a fanatical movement is pretty much a waste of time. Just do what you love and do what is good for you, what is useful to you, what is beneficial to you, and never take it to this extreme. He was basically, I don't want to deride him in any way, but he was basically LARPing as a samurai. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, but it's just never be this person, in my view, because it's just, there are certain things that have their time. Certain things need to be done at a certain time. Afterwards, it is, I would say, it is healthy to let things just die out and go away and be ravaged by the sands of time. Certain things need to go away. Actually, everything must go away one way or another. It would be like me being a Eastern European trying to bring back and revitalize and have a renaissance when it comes to, medieval knights of castles and shit. It's like me trying to revive the philosophy of what it was like to be a medieval knight and wearing armor and, this Arthurian type of mindset. And, those things were wonderful, but they're dead and buried. And I think that they should remain as such, because otherwise it becomes dangerous, because you can become basically a LARPer and a cosplayer and a role player if you are not careful. And this is exactly what is happening to a lot of people, where they find something that they vibe with, and instead of just loving it and practicing it, they just turn it into this movement of fanaticism and zeal instead of just enjoying it. Anything today, if people vibe with it, they turn it into they blow it out of proportion. This is what I'm trying to say. It took me 30 minutes to finally find the correct expression. People blow things out of proportion for no reason. They find something that is good and beneficial, and they just have to turn it into this cult religious thing, this fanatical thing. It's just too much. It's such a waste of energy, right? And I guess, in a way, it demonstrates a lack of maturity, I think. Because it is obvious that when things are blown out of proportion, people do this because they have to compensate for something that they imagine they lack. This is the case, I think. But that's about it. If you enjoy this content, if you want to support your boy, I got a few books on Amazon. The link will be down below. If the link does not work, you can search my name, Griffith Samsara. Thanks for watching. See ya.